Everyone, this is Seesaw Choice Boards, and we are so honored that you are here today learning with us. I'm Angela from the community team at Seesaw, and we are so excited to have Kris back with us today. He always has amazing ideas for ways that he is integrating really unique, active, interactive components to Seesaw to make sure that students, of course, are always engaged, but always really deepening their learning with Seesaw. So Kris, we are excited to talk about the topic of choice boards today. So I'm gonna let you take it away and introduce yourself and get going in this session.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for the invite, and thank you everybody who is attending, whether you're here live or through the recording. I really appreciate you being here. You're going to see down at the bottom, there is a link here, and I just covered it up, but there's a link that goes to these slides, and that's going to be on every single page as we go. So if you want to see these slides, type in that URL down there, that bit.ly, and you're going to be able to kind of follow along or refer back to this later. I'm going to introduce myself here really quick. My name is Kris Szajner here from Prior Lake, Minnesota, elementary tech integrationist for, let's see, this is my 6th year doing this job. And before this, I was a kindergarten teacher and I loved every single second of it. I love every single second of this job too, but this is just, an awesome environment for me to share things like this with a big, broad audience and with all of you guys. My Twitter handle is right there. If you want to follow me, that'd be awesome. I do share a lot of awesome things through that. So that's where you can kind of find that. Okay. Today we're here talking about choice boards. And this is kind of our quick agenda that we're going to go through. Like Angela said, I want to spend about half the time showing you things, and then I want to answer a lot of questions after that. So I'm going to showcase some choice boards, what they could potentially look like. I'm going to create one right in front of you, and then I'm going to share just some pro tips, just some things to think about, some things that are maybe going to help you as you go down the road. So like Angela kind of said, if you have questions, just hang on to them for a little bit until we kind of get through some of these, because they might get answered as we're sharing. The whole big component of like, why would I choose choice boards on here? This is the big reasons why. We always hear these questions of like, can we have multiple links in a Seesaw activity? Can we combine activities so we're working a little bit more efficiently? Can we streamline our activities for students so we're not pushing out 5 or 6 activities in one day? Doing a system like a choice board like this is going to answer all 3 of those, and it's going to help you to just be more efficient with your students, more efficient with your teaching, especially when we're talking about the times that we're in right now of we don't want to inundate our students at home. We want to make sure that we're being super efficient with all of our work, including our teaching. Okay, so what I'm going to start with again is just taking a peek at some choice boards. Now I have mocked up 5 of them, and you guys all have the wonderful pleasure of actually getting all 5 of these, and I'll show you kind of why here. So if I look at my presentation, all of these are actual links that go to a Seesaw activity. So if I click on this and I click on the link itself, it is going to take me to this as a living, breathing activity. So I'm going to walk you through our very first one here. This is called Comparing Two Stories. Let's get this to load. What I've actually built for this one, let me open it up, is the choice board here has 2 different YouTube links. So there's one link for a story of the 3 Billy Goats Gruff told from the 3 Billy Goats Gruff story. The second one is a story of the friendly old troll, but it's told from the troll point of view. So the goal for students is to listen to both stories and then complete an activity that is comparing those 2 stories as they go through this. Now, again, the beauty and the design behind this is that both of these things are available for students. So we've integrated multiple links into an activity while still including a template for students to actually fill out, okay? So that was the first kind of drive-by of how this could look. Again, I'm going to make one for you. So if you're sitting there thinking like, how do I make that? I want to learn how to do those things. I'll show you that in just a minute. I just want to quickly show you just some quick examples. Here is another one all about circles. If you are a primary teacher, this is just phenomenal. Again, just like the 3 Billy Goats, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 links, and I'm just going to zoom in on this and just kind of talk through them. This is a video, just a Storybots video. They're so much fun. Every kid in the whole world loves Storybots. The next one is just an ABC Ya game. This is a shape invasion game on fun for the brain, and then just a PBS game. Everything is all linked in here for students so they can progress through 4 different links and still have an opportunity to submit an actual activity for me, all within one super clean, streamlined activity. Okay, let's go to our third one. I only have 2 more quickly to share, all about polar bears. This is the example that you probably have seen throughout all of Twitter. This is a way, kind of an idea that I had of, how do we incorporate some of these animal research projects into something for students? So just like before, all of these are separate links. This one goes to a polar bear cam at like the San Diego Zoo, I believe. This is a polar bear tracker where you actually get to like see like the blips on a map and fun stuff like that. World Wildlife Fund, National Geographic Kids, and this is like a little ebook for kids. So basically, as you think about how these can kind of be designed, you can almost embed anything that is a separate link into the system for students, whether it's a video, whether it's an audio recording, whether it's a manipulative map, whether it's an ebook, anything like that is kind of on the table for how you can embed some of these pieces. I'm gonna quickly drive by these last 2 ideas. I'll just talk about it from this point of view here. This one has to do with a math concept, equal groups for multiplication. So I have chosen to kind of put some headers on this that help to guide students learn about what we're talking about here. How do you use this specific strategy to help you with multiplication? Show me what your understanding is by playing this game, and show me again through this game. And then extend that, like how do we then use equal groups for division? All of these are all built right in here for students to click and play. The final one is an idea that a 2nd grade teacher had, and she kind of chose to have these 3 headers on here of like, I want the students to grow by learning something new. So this is a video of the teacher kind of talking through a strategy. The next one is apply by playing a quick little game. And then the third one is, again, a review game that's all within here, and finalizing all of these with an actual template for students to actually go through, okay? So I have given you the pie. I've given you like, yum, this pie is really tasty. Now I'm gonna actually back this train up and show you how to actually build these things, and how do you take what you see and what you've kind of seen as this moonshot and actually break that down into an actual project as we go, okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 big kind of headers here that I'm gonna stop at and talk through as we go. The first one is that I am using Google Slides for this platform. There are other platforms that work for this purpose, but I choose to use Google Slides because this, for me, is very familiar to me, and it's something that I find comfortable, and I can also basically build anything that I want within this. Again, this isn't the only platform. You can use Book Creator, you can use Keynote, there's a lot of things out there, but I'm gonna show you today from the Google Slides point of view how this actually works. So what I'm gonna do from start to finish is I'm gonna build one like live right in front of you guys. So we're gonna go here to a brand new slideshow and start from scratch, okay? So I went to slides.new. If you don't know that fun little URL, it's a way to just kick off a new slideshow. And I'm gonna get rid of these text boxes, okay? So the idea that I have in the back of my head, and one that a lot of people can kind of resonate with, is just to build like a life cycle. And I'm gonna choose to do this on the Monarch life cycle. So I'm gonna build this choice board with that theme in the back of my head of the Monarch life cycle. So what I first wanna do is actually put in a couple shapes that are here. I'm gonna put a title bar up here. And this can be just words, this can be really anything. I grabbed a shape, just this rounded corner one, because it's kind of fun. And I'm gonna just put a title on here with my favorite font. There is so much flexibility in how this looks and how this feels for you. I'm choosing to kind of make colors and make a theme that I really like. So this is gonna be the life cycle, whoops, of a monarch. Okay, just like this. We have this big bold header that's right on the top of this, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is put in kind of those little boxes that are going to be the clickable choices for students. So I'm going to use the exact same shape, which is this little rounded rectangle, and I'm going to put, let's choose to do 4 of them for this example. Here is 1. Let's turn it to be white. Okay. I'm going to copy this, paste it. I'm going to put 2 right over here. 1, 2. And I'm going to do the same down below by copying both of these ones, and we'll put it down here. Okay, just like this. Now, they are running off the page. A little pro tip on this one is if I highlight all of these, I can just shrink them down on here. Okay, so if you're somebody who already saw this step and is like, okay, Kris, that is way too much, I can't even follow that. There are some templates that I have given to you guys right here that you can just take and use. So I've done 90% of the hard work for you. You can click on these and this will take you to those templates. You can copy them, you can have them, they're yours. I just wanted to show you that design process because there's a lot of people who've been asking about how do you actually make these things. I wanted to just quickly show that, okay? So this part is finished. I'm not going to put numbers on it or arrows. I'm not going to really fancy it up. I just want to get you the meat and potatoes here. So what I'm going to do is open a new tab and go to a kid-safe search engine. This is one of the pro tips that I'll go back to, is that I want to go to a kid-safe search engine because anything I find on here and I give to students has already been screened. Okay, so if I go in here and type in monarchs, yep, we'll type in monarch butterflies just to make sure we're not getting any kind of government in here. Okay, so this one right here, if I zoom in on this, I can see that this is from National Geographic. I basically can guarantee you that this is going to be super kid friendly for them. So I'm going to click on it and quickly screen this just to make sure that it's something that's really appropriate for them before I actually put it into the choice board from here. So great, I read through all this stuff. I really like it. I want to give this to my kids. I'm going to do 2 things once I find it. So I can do, first thing I'm going to do is actually make sure that my students know this is like National Geographic. So I can right click on this little icon, copy the image if I want to, and I can even paste it right here on my choice board. So I have their logo right on here. So my students know like, hey, yeah, we're going to go to National Geographic today. Sweet. Okay. The last thing I want to do is go back to my actual article, copy the link, and then just paste it both on this little picture here by clicking on it normally, going up to the link, and then pasting our link. And just as a kind of a little help from my students, especially younger students, I also want to link this shape. So I'm going to click on the shape, go up here to link, and also link that one too. Just because if I have a student who accidentally clicks right up here, they will still be able to get to the actual work. Okay, it's just going to prevent some user error from the student's end. Okay, let's put in, I'm going to close this one. Let's put in one more video if we can find one quickly. Here's Kid Zone. This is a sweet one. Let's screen it really quick because we always want to do this. Awesome, I like it, I like it. So I'm going to copy again that logo just because it helps me to have a landmark. Paste the logo. We'll resize it just a little bit like this, okay? And now I'm gonna go back to the article, copy the link, and then I'm going to link both the picture, or that little icon, and then also the background square, because again, user error is gonna really help our kids if we do that extra step for us, okay? Sweet. I am going to close this one. I'll leave KidRex open, and I want to show you how to put videos in here because Google Slides actually makes putting in videos super, super helpful. I can go up here to Insert and choose Video. And from here, I actually can search YouTube like directly in Google Slides. I don't have to go to YouTube first. So I can type in life cycle of a monarch, and it's going to take me to basically everything on YouTube that's actually here. So I would recommend, again, screen these, watch these, make sure that you know that they're safe for your students, and then you just have to click on it and choose select to drop it into your actual slideshow for you. You can resize it, you can do all kinds of fun stuff like this to make sure that it fits just like that. That looks awesome. So we have 1, 2, 3, and we can add in one more here. Let's go back to KidRex really quickly and grab one last one. That one's that's a heavy article there. We're not going to choose that one. Let's do this one, Save the Monarchs from Fish and Wildlife. Okay, we're going to copy their logo. This is a great example because if I right click on this, I actually can't copy this logo. So if this happens, which is very real, I could just go into this square and just write Fish and Wildlife article. And then you can just resize this however you want. So putting in these icons is absolutely not a requirement for this system to work. It just makes it a little bit more visually appealing for some people. All right, so let me go back. Let me copy this, and then we'll link it on the final square right here, okay? Click on the whole box, go over here to the link, and paste it. Okay, so we went through all of the steps to get our actual choice board made. We've shown you how to put in the icons. I've shown you how to get links. I've shown you how to put in videos. I've showed you how to do basically a really quick design on all of this. What I'm going to do now is show you the next step on our list here, which is how to share this to make sure that all students can click on this, because it's really, really important that you do this. Otherwise, you're going to run into a wall with your kids and they're going to be really frustrated and you're going to be really frustrated. So making sure that you share this the right way is just as important as actually building this the right way as well. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is actually title this something that I know. So I'm going to title it the exact same thing as what it is, monarch. Okay, life cycle of a monarch, because we're going to need to find that later on as we go. What I'm going to first do is go over here to the share permissions, and I'm going to share this. Go down to advanced. I could click anyone with the link, but since I'm within our network, it's actually going to kind of restrict things. So I'd like to go to advanced, change, and choose anyone with the link can view, just like this, okay? Because that means that anyone who's outside of our network can view this, whether they're a student, whether they're a parent, and they don't have to sign in to be able to look at this choice board, okay? So step one was to share this with anyone with the link can view. And now we're going to go to the actual Seesaw activity to start to build it, okay? So I'm going to go here, which is kind of jumping ahead to actually number 3 is building the activity. I'm going to go to Seesaw, and I'm going to go up here to add, because we want to get straight into our activity library. Go to assign activity. And what I'm going to do is start a brand new activity. So we're starting from absolute scratch. This screenshot right here is also in the slideshow, and I'm going to show you kind of where I would recommend actually putting all of these things of a monarch. So I titled it Life Cycle of a Monarch because that's what we're talking about. And right here where it says add multimedia instructions or example, this is where we're going to drop our choice board. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to go down here to upload, because we want to make sure that we are going to put this in here from our Google Drive. If you can see this button way down here at the bottom, I want to actually choose this from our Google Drive because it's right up there. Okay, this is what's important to remember the name of your slideshow, because you have to search for it. Life Cycle of a Monarch. Here it is. Let's click it. And what it's going to do, it's going to upload a PDF version of this. Now, PDF versions are great and they're clickable on most devices, but here is your $1 million pro tip that I have found to make sure all students can click. I've done the upload part, okay? And I'm going to do one last step while I'm sitting right here on this little preview. I'm going to go back to my slideshow, go up here to File, and then publish this to the web, because we want to create a second support for our students to make sure that anybody can actually click on this regardless of their device. I want to click publish. It says, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, we do. We are sure. That's why we're doing it. And it's going to give you a published link. Now, you don't, published links are just kind of a way for other people to get to this without actually touching anything or having to sign in. It's just a great little safety net for kids. So I've copied the published link. Once I'm here, I'm gonna add that link as a caption, and you'll see what this looks like as soon as I finish. So I'm gonna click on the caption button, paste it, and then I'm gonna click off of it, like click right over here, and it's gonna add that caption. You see it says caption added, okay? And I'm going to hit the check mark because I want to show you exactly what this is going to look like and why I chose to do that, because it's important for you to kind of see all of those pieces in total, because you know, if we're just kind of doing things as extra work, that's silly. So when students click on it, they have this clickable version right here. They have the choice to view the original, which again will work for a lot of devices, or view Google Doc if they're using like a Chromebook. That will work also to be clickable, but now they have this extra safety net right here, that if neither of these things work and they can't click it, they can click on this one and it's going to open it up for them in a separate window, so they for sure can actually click on this. So that's why I chose to do the caption here. It's just an extra safety net for your kids to make sure that anybody with the link can actually click on it, okay? I'm going to jump back over here because we've actually done steps 1, steps 2, and step number 3, and we're going to move on to the actual step number 4, which is how do you include templates with this? Because the way that we designed this, if I go over here to edit, you still have the opportunity to provide a template for students that they can actually respond to. So what I'm going to first do is overview 3 topics that are here, just to kind of show you some ideas that I've been sharing with students that are extremely friendly for like home learning. You know, that's kind of the big thing as we're in this world right now and in this kind of environment, is we want to make sure any activity we give students is friendly for their home learning. So here's 3 examples of things that you can use that are going to really, really leverage your camera. So you could do a show me where they're just going to take a picture of whatever they're doing. What are the steps that you're doing? And they're taking 4 pictures. What happened first, second, and third as they were completing their activity? So I'm going to make one of these really, really quick for you, and then I'll jump kind of to the next idea on here. So we're going to show an idea of how you use the camera as a template. Oops, went to the wrong screen. Here we go. Adding a template for student response. And I'm going to go to drawing. I want to start here with a blank canvas. So I'm going to first change our background color to something cute, something fun. Green, that's a phenomenal color. And then I'm going to add a title on here to just be show me. We're going to make an exact copy of that other one. I'm going to put this in the corner and just pull the edges just like this. Awesome. That looks great. Now, what I did to make the little box with the camera on it is I first put in a shape, and I put in this little rounded corner square, but I'll make it into a rectangle about like this size. And I made it white just because then it pops and it stands out. And what I have done is actually found this picture, if you can see it way off my screen, I found this picture online of just like a camera icon. And if I drag and drop this in, it's going to turn into kind of like an icon for my students, so they know like, hey, when I see this activity, I know I have to use my camera over here to take a picture and then just drop it right on this white space. So it's a really visual way to help our students, and it's a phenomenal way for you to kind of bridge that gap between learning at home and then also learning at school, and having some like rigor with fidelity kind of things that are just kind of intertwined in this. So the camera is a great tool that's right here. So that's how you build this first example. The second one is to just use the microphone. So again, I've created 3 quick examples. And if you look at these, there is like an arrow that's pointing to nowhere in this world right now. But when you go to Seesaw, it actually points straight to the microphone. And I'll show you kind of what this looks like here as I make the second one, which has to do with using our microphone. So we're going to fly over to Seesaw, and if you're using multi-page, or if you have the ability to use multi-page, I should say, which is a paid feature, I can just layer this on top of this one by adding a new page down here at the bottom. And we'll just kind of start over from scratch, building the one that has to do with kind of a microphone quickly. Tell me all about this one, just straight from a text box. Let's zoom that up here. And just like before, I'm going to put in a shape for the camera, We're going to use that rectangle. Ooh, it almost disappeared. Just like this. We'll drop the camera icon on it. Awesome, awesome. And the final thing we're going to do is actually have an arrow that points to the microphone. Okay, so we're going to go arrow right over here. Let's make it black so it really stands out. We're going to spin it and we're going to make it point just like this, like literally for kids. This is foolproof. We'll add in a final text box like click here and tell me all about it. Oops. Yay. Perfect. Okay. So there it is. There's another mock-up really, really quick of a way that you can take advantage of the microphone and the camera for you to build some awesome activities and templates for your students to respond to in your activities, okay? The final thing I'm going to quickly showcase, and then we'll get to the pro tips on here, is just using graphic organizers. Now, there are a bazillion graphic organizers out in the world, and if you already have screenshots of things or your own templates that you can upload, that's great. Like, that's going to save you a bunch of time, but you can still make these same graphic organizers all in Seesaw. These are 3 that I put together just to kind of show you the capabilities of what you can do. These are just 2 circles. This is a quick KWL chart, and this is a timeline with just some lines and some rectangles that are all in here. So I'm gonna do the KWL chart really quickly for you, just to kind of show you how you do that one, and then we'll move on to the pro tips and get some Q&A going. So new tab, or excuse me, new page, not a new tab, right down here. Let's change our background to be orange now. We'll say KWL. And we'll throw that up in the corner, just like this. That's kind of big. Okay, and for those 3 columns, I'm gonna just put in that same rectangle, but instead of making it go horizontal, I'm just gonna make it go vertical, just like this, okay? Because you have the flexibility to kind of change this however you want. Now, I can click on this and duplicate it. That is one way to copy things. You also have some keyboard shortcuts, like if I go Control D or Command D, I can duplicate things all within Seesaw too. So that's a great tip for you to just save you some time when you're trying to make a bunch of things rather than going to shapes every time and having to click all those ways. I'm going to do the same with the text box, Control D or Command D, and we'll just do a K. Throw it up there, K, and then W, and the last one, whoops. Come on now. Clicking the wrong way. There we go. And an L. Okay. All right, I'm going to hit the check because I have shown you kind of all of the ways that I would kind of recommend doing all of this. And I'm going to hit save so you can see a full picture view of what this looks like. Let's assign this even to a class, and I'm going to show you what this looks like for a student themselves, because I am lucky enough to have one of my kiddos in school that I can use as a guinea pig here, and so I'm going to do this right in front of you live so you can see it from the student point of view. So if I go over here to activities, I can see that I've just been assigned this activity from my teacher. Okay, it's a little bit small right here. Whoops. Okay, it's a little bit small, but what I can do as a student is I can click on this right away and just kind of fly through my links, or I can start by going on add response and then go back the other way. But I'm going to show you this way first. So I can click on this. I have the ability to view original, view the doc, or click on this button again to pop it out in a new window. So I have 3 safety nets to be able to open this. Let's go view original. And it's going to allow me now to click on all of these and redirect me around to all of my work. Okay, sweet. It went straight to that article we wanted. I can hit the back button and it's still going to take me back to this tool right here. Let's go to Fish and Wildlife. Awesome, awesome. That one is awesome. Okay, and let's say that we're all finished. We're all done with all of this. So I can close this tab, and now I still have the ability to add a response. So let's say that we got this cool template, we uploaded our picture, we're moving on to the next one. I'm like, you know what? I want to look back at that choice board. What's awesome is this view instructions lets us actually go back and click on this choice board again. So now we can pop this out. We can look at things. Let's click on this one now just to show you. and we can watch the video again, and we can do fun things like this to just refresh ourselves all within the actual activity here. Okay, so let me close out of this one. We'll just hit the check mark to turn this in. Uploading. There we go. Oh, sorry, that's a different timer going on right there. Okay, so that's kind of what that looks like for students. Now we're signed in with home learning codes, so you saw the activity disappear here, but this would have then been submitted for me to actually review as a teacher. Okay, so I'm going to move on and cover in the next through 2 minutes the actual pro tips that are here, because this is going to answer a bunch of questions I'm hoping for you. That is going to, solve a lot of these things that are here. So this is number one thing that I shouldn't say a lot of teachers, but some teachers have this question floating around, like, hey, when I'm making a Seesaw activity and I go to get activity link, this link right here, can I just give that to students? And I'm going to say, don't do that, because what that does is that is a way for teachers to share activities with each other. If you gave that to a student, it's going to go to like the teacher sign-in page, and it's going to be a little bit of a headache as you go through this. It's just going to cause some frustration for students. So that is pro tip number one. Pro tip number two is there is an awesome new feature for Google Slides that you can embed MP3s, which are just like audio recordings, into your Google Slides presentation. I have done it multiple times, but I have not been able to make it clickable on all devices. I sure hope that it will be as we look at slides a little bit more, but that's just something to think about, is that if you want to embed audio, it might not be clickable on all devices. Just kind of giving you a heads up. Number three, you can always make your own videos and record them, put them onto YouTube. Your kids would love to see your face and hear your voice if you put your own video into your choice board for them to watch. That's a phenomenal thing to do. There are 4 ideas here and 4 tools that you can use to actually make some videos there. Number 4 is make your videos really safe. I didn't show this, but these are 3 sites that you can grab a YouTube video, you can put them into these tools, and it's going to keep your students out of YouTube itself. It's a way to get rid of like the ads, it's a way to get rid of the clutter, it's a way to just make it a little bit safer for your students. So these are 3 tools that are here for you. You literally copy the YouTube link, drop it into one of these, and you can make your videos safe. And the final one, which is one I showcased here, is use kid-safe search engines. I've given you 3. There are a lot out there, but these are the 3 that I use most often. That is, again, it's pre-screened stuff that's going to help you to make sure what you put in front of your students is very safe for them. Okay. All right, whew, I got done in like 33 minutes there. So I'm going to open things up for questions. Angela, I'm going to kind of pass it over to you. I went as fast as I could without trying to overwhelm anybody who was watching, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so keep it on your screen because you might be demonstrating some things, Kris. But we've been watching questions as they come in, and your pro tips at the end are addressing a lot of them regarding safe share and kid safe sites and all that. So I think the first question to maybe start with is, are people that are not able to use Google tools, so maybe they don't have Google Slides, what is your suggestion for them in terms of what else they could use?
Absolutely. So my suggestion would be you can still do all of these through like Microsoft Word or Publisher. The trick is that you have to export things as a PDF, because if we kind of quickly review what this was, when I uploaded it, it actually converted it over to a PDF. Yeah. So you just have to make a PDF in whatever tool you're most comfortable with, and it's still going to work just as good.
Exactly. People were asking about PowerPoint and all that. It's basically converting it. In Seesaw, when you upload from Google Drive, it's converting it automatically to a PDF, so it's saving you a little bit of a step, but you can upload a PDF as well. So similar question coming in related to Google Docs. Could you use, a lot of people talk about HyperDocs. How would you compare this to that, Kris?
They work almost exactly the same. It's just a different look and feel. I chose this one because it gives you a little bit more of a cutesy visual appeal to it, but you certainly can use Google Docs as well. There's nothing wrong with those.
Yep, I think you just have to, of course, keep in mind the audience and age of students that you're working with as well. I love how Kris has this set up to be very visual, to also, in other examples he shared, really give cues as to what happens first, what's next, what could you, what are your choices if it is a true choice board as well. So I think keep in mind your students, and you are experts in that domain. So keep that in mind when you are deciding. A lot of questions coming in related to why did you go ahead and add that additional public link as the caption? So maybe you just kind of want to recap that a little bit, and I can add some more context as well.
Absolutely. So the reason why I choose to do this, and if I pop this out, you'll kind of see, is that this View Original and View Google Doc, as of, what was it, 2 days ago, the updated Android app, this is available for all devices. However, there are some things out there, like I believe it's the Kindle Fire and a couple other strange devices, like maybe some cell phones, that don't allow some of these choices. And honestly, sometimes when you choose these, even sometimes like the videos might not be clickable and playable in here. So I have defaulted to just adding this as just a best practice, just to make sure that everybody can get there. It may or may not be an unnecessary step, but I know, like, in the world we live in our district, we don't have one-to-one devices. So our students are using all kinds of devices, whatever they have at their houses, to really, be successful in this distance learning journey. So we want to make sure we provide all the supports necessary for all of our students, regardless of their device.
Exactly. So I think, just to recap a couple key things, this week we released an Android update. So the communication obviously about that, and just making sure apps are updated, is one of those things to have on a regular basis, as of course we're discovering bugs and fixing things. So make sure, number one, if families or students are having any issue, the first question should be, is your app updated? Do you have the most recent version of the class app? But I love Kris's suggestion here of adding in those extra layers as just a backup, in case, maybe they think they updated their app, but they couldn't, or they're working with some of these, outlier cases potentially of a mixed device that might not have that View Original option. So keep that in mind as well. Other questions coming in, there are a lot, so thanks for hanging in here with us. Just in general, everyone will get the recording of this session. We are still live, so we're still recording it as we speak, and the slides as well. That will come to you via email if you registered for this session by tomorrow. So look for that in your email. Check your spam filter if you don't see it tomorrow. Kris, can you talk about, a lot of people are like, where are all these templates that he's made? How can I get templates that Kris has made? So maybe share that again quickly.
I will. This right here, this bit.ly link, this Seesaw choice board right here, if you guys can see that in the top right, this is going to take you to the presentation, and everything is literally linked in here. So all of these are activities that you can click and you can grab today. And on this last slide, these templates that are blank for you, this is also a link that you can take and you can grab and you can use, so you don't have to go through the work of kind of starting from scratch.
All right, Bridget is asking, do the videos on the choice boards play on the board, or will it take them to a different site?
Yep, let's go to View Original. They will if you click this link. I know that for sure, but if I go View Original and I click this one, it's going to pop me out, but it's going to keep me kind of in this same tab. So I just have to hit the back arrow and it's going to take me out of YouTube itself. Okay. On an iPad, it looks a tiny bit different, I'll be honest with you, and that this may be playable on an iPad. I'm here on my computer today, just so you guys kind of know, but if I click this button here, it is playable all within our slideshow. You can see that I have the play button, and if I hit that well, it's going to tell me it's unavailable because we chose not a great video. Okay, so, but it is playable in here if I choose this one for sure. And on an iPad, it is playable through View Original. But just another case of why you want to make sure you have that safety net there. It might help your kiddos.
All right, lots of questions coming in. So we're going through these. Let's see. Can you just reiterate again, Kris, why we don't want to use that get activity link for students?
Absolutely. Let me showcase this. I'll show it from start to finish here. So
Sure.
if I had this activity and I go down here to share and get activity link, if I copy this and I like put it in a choice board or I share it with my students, when they open it, they're going to see this screen right here. So it's not going to actually route you to the activity in your stream for students to fill out or in your activity tab. It's going to say like, hey, you as a teacher are sharing this with another teacher. So students actually can't like click save activity and go into it and complete it. It's just going to kind of route you a different direction and potentially a frustrating direction.
Right. Okay, Kris, can you talk about, as always, this is a popular question that comes up in your sessions. People are like, how does he get that camera picture on the activity? So
Yeah.
what Kris is doing is that's just an image that he has added. So when that camera is appearing in the activity, there it is on his desktop right there.
Yeah, right
So yeah, you can explain that, Kris.
Absolutely. So all I did is I went to Google just like this and I searched for like camera icon. That's all it was. And I chose one that I liked. So I think this is the exact one. The only thing I checked is just to make sure that, you know, that it's like this transparent background. So it's a PNG. And then I just made sure to save this one so I can use this however I choose kind of in the future. So I just found it on Google. It's not mine. But that's kind of where I found that one. And you can choose any of them that fit your style.
All right. So many ideas flowing here. I know there are going to be tons of teachers that leave this session and are like playing with choice boards as they go. Kris, is there anything as you were navigating building your first ones that you're like, oh, I've learned this is an easier way to start. So questions specifically about, how do my students know to click here, or kind of those cues? Can you talk a little bit about, as you were building some of your first choice boards, some tricks for just making those cues for students a little bit easier for them to kind of follow along?
Absolutely. So what I always try to think of before I actually start designing is like, how do I want students to interact with this? Like, these are not necessarily choice boards. They're more like sequence boards or whatever you want to say.
Yep.
So when you design these, you want to make sure you're giving like the number cues of like, this is first, second, third. You could change these to say things like, this is a must do row and this is a may do row. So you can kind of give that visual cue. And you could also like remove all of these arrows and have just like maybe in the very middle would be like the title. So they have just this plethora of choices on here. So just trying to think of like, how do you actually want students to complete this? Do you want them to complete everything on the page, or do you want it to be like a true choice for them? And then starting to design kind of from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. So you can just think about those things. What he's basically doing is he's adding shapes on top
Yep.
of the board in the Google Slides. So that's how he's getting the arrows and the numbers and all of those things. So if you're thinking about just, being in your classroom as you are presenting something to your students, obviously this is a unique situation that you're not being able to present in the same way. So if you were modeling something, on your whiteboard or smartboard, what are some of those visual cues you have had for students? How do you plan to integrate them into a format like this? So be thinking through all of those things as well. I think one of the things that Kris has shared before, or we've talked about in previous sessions, is you can also go into Seesaw and actually do a screencast in Seesaw showing how you could interact with this this activity. So I don't know if you can show that, Kris, how people might approach that, because I think if they are for the very first time sharing a choice board with their students, the students might be a little bit like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? So thinking through maybe how that could play a part of this flow. And maybe it's even a separate activity that's created to kind of prepare them for what is coming. So
let's call this one our first choice board. So this is just an idea that just popped into my head here. So what I'm gonna first do is leave this template where it is, but instead of using this as like the PDF where it's actually clickable, I am going to click this microphone button and walk my students through it. So as soon as I click this, it's going to record everything I'm saying. It's going to record everything I'm doing. So you could say something like, hey students, it's great to see you. Today we're going to try out a choice board. Now each of these squares are clickable for you. So I'm going to show you and walk you through how to click all these. And guess what? We have a fun little video here and whatever else you want to say. Okay, you can just kind of ad lib that one, but you would record all of those pieces. My screen is zoomed out here. Let me see if I can fix this one. And you'll just click on the check, which is not, it's hiding from me right now. So I'm going to click the X, but you would record your video for students up above here, and then you could still add your choice board down here for students to click on. So instead of having an actual template for students to respond to, you're instead giving the choice board really twice. You're giving it once as the example for you to talk through it, and then you're giving them the choice to actually start to click on it as their template for this one. So it's a great way to kind of get students a little bit more acclimated to this instead of just like throwing it at them and say, hey, just click around and figure it out. You're giving them a video here, and now they have the choice to actually click down below. So that's an idea that just flew into my head, but.
exactly. So yeah, I think that it's obviously always very, very important to not only start with your purpose of why you're doing something, but make sure you are still embedding modeling and opportunities for your students to get acclimated to potentially this completely new form of interacting that they haven't ever had the opportunity to do before. So just as you are in your classroom, when you are teaching remotely or teaching via home learning, you need to make sure you're continually as a teacher, approaching these new experiences and making sure you're giving that space to model and practice before just kind of throwing something in at your students. So thank you for sharing that. Kris, we have all sorts of questions coming in. I'm actually going to ask Robin, who is one of our moderators here with us today, to unmute and maybe just hop in, Robin, and let us know maybe a question that we should address next, as of course we're filtering through a lot of questions at this point. Robin, do you have anything that you're seeing that we should hop into right now?
Yes, I've just had a few people come in and ask how it's accessible for grades like kindergarten and first grade. And I know I teach second grade and my students have used this. Do you provide step-by-step directions and send the parents a video, or what do you do to best prepare parents for these type of lessons, or do the kids just jump in and it's easy to use?
No, I absolutely would recommend giving as many supports as your parents. Being a former kindergarten teacher, I spent a ton of time teaching my parents how to basically be teachers at home. And right now that's like way more important than ever, is how do we walk our parents through some of these things? So I actually would highly recommend you almost do like a screencast or some kind of a video for your parents, walking them through before you actually give one to your students, so that they're equipped to answer those questions as they're going to come up with their younger learners.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that you could record that just whatever screencast tool you use. I'm on a MacBook, so I often use QuickTime. I know Kris has used Screencastify as well, but that is something that you could include as an announcement to families if families are connected via the family app, or if they're only using the class app with their student, make sure you send that announcement to all students and all families so that they would see that in their inbox. And one tip I would suggest is just as Kris did in this session, he went into the student mode. So that is what families are going to interact with when they're supporting their child at home. So I would suggest being in as a student and taking it from that student perspective of, here, you know, your child has signed into their Seesaw class. We're trying something new, and we're sharing this choice board. Here's what it looks like, and they're going to click on the activity tab. So that's a recommendation that I would make in terms of even that communication, because if you start sharing it from the teacher perspective, that's going to not look exactly the same as what the family would interact with. So I would recommend that. Robin, anything else we should hop into next, as I'm still scrolling questions as well?
Yes, I just want to clarify with Kris, because we've had several people ask this question. The sample that you're showing on your screen right now, you didn't type the instructions in yet.
Yeah.
Teachers are wondering, are you having kids work on this choice board, or are you creating a template for students?
So this specific example would be like your very first one, where you're gonna have a video walking them through how to use the choice board. So this is kind of an outlier example that would be on here. For this one, they would still be clicking on this as the student template. Now, as your students get more comfortable, I would encourage you to kind of extend it to be something like this, where you have the clickable choice board up here, and then you're including templates for them to respond to. But doing a system like this very first could be a little bit overwhelming. So get your students acclimated with the choice board first and how to navigate it, and then you can start to give them templates as you.
Yeah, I like the idea of, I like that you pointed that out, Kris, because I think some of the questions coming in have asked, you know, basically what Kris is using here as this choice board is really guiding students through some learning opportunities and almost like mini lesson opportunities before they hop in to actually respond in the Seesaw activity. So he's using that ability to kind of deliver additional videos, additional links, additional guidance for students before they hop in and respond. So I think it's a great idea to maybe start really simple. I mean, if you're working with young students, maybe there's only 2 things on their first choice board, and it's maybe a video and maybe taking them to, you know, a site, but really basic. I think that's a great example, Kris, right there.
Yep. This would for sure be my first one doing kindergarten.
Yep. So they're just kind of watching both of those, and then potentially the follow-up in the Seesaw activity could include a template that says, you know, what did you notice as the differences between these 2 stories? And maybe they're drawing a picture and recording their voice explaining those differences. So so think about what you know about your students, think about what you know about good instruction, and make sure we are not forgetting those key components of really good instruction, even in this unique situation we're in. And I know that we're all navigating this, and I know there is never going to be a scenario where you are replicating the amazing work that you do with your students face to face in this format. So I think you also need to you know, take a breath and also realize that as well, as you are already doing an amazing job trying to navigate how this works best for your students. So keep that in mind. You're all doing an amazing job navigating this entirely new world. And I think just remember those key components of your instruction that you use in terms of modeling and practicing and guiding and introducing slowly, especially if you're using this with younger students. So I think I also just want to reiterate as well, of course, we know students all the way through, you know, middle school, high school, and even at the college level are interacting and using Seesaw. So I definitely don't want to by any means plant the seed that, you know, this is limiting to only young students. I think a lot of the ideas that Kris is sharing here today apply to various levels of instruction. So make sure you obviously are using your expertise with the students that you work with. Robin, I'm going to ask you for another question. I see some coming in that I could hop to, but I'm going to give you a chance to hop in and let us know where we should go next.
Just kind of to reiterate on the amount of links, like you guys were saying, would you suggest just sharing links out? I've had this question a lot, just for one activity in a day, or would you share out links that students could go back to that activity and watch several links?
Sure, absolutely. So that kind of depends on how you want this to kind of function for the day. So we've had some teachers who build a choice board and they want students to use it for the entire week. Now we have the ability to use like the draft feature where students can kind of save that through the entire week, but that's kind of going to depend on your bigger picture for the entire scope and sequence of your week as you're going. Do you want them to kind of keep on going back to this for the week and not having to reassign it? Or do you want them to, just look at all the links really quick and then get through an actual template as you're going? So I think that question kind of depends on the scope and sequence for the entire week that you're doing that for.
And I think that kind of also ties into the age of your students, their familiarity with this type of format previously to leaving your classroom. So kind of keep all those things in mind. I think, obviously myself, I was a kindergarten teacher for 15 years, and I definitely, I think sometimes right now there's a tendency to want to give your students everything, like here's all of your stuff for the week. I think we also have to realize potentially what that feels like on their end as well, because if they walk into your classroom, you're obviously never going to hand your students everything for the week to hold on to as they just enter your room. So just be thoughtful of how you want to best approach that. And even when you're sharing one choice board, I would encourage you to think about how complex or in depth do you want them to be just in that one space. So if you're trying to do something that has 20 different links and 5 different videos and whatnot, that can of course be pretty complex depending on the age of your students. So just be thoughtful about that. Another question coming in is related to including visuals of a Seesaw activity in a choice board. So you're probably not going to be able to demonstrate this, Kris, but basically what the question was, can you include a link to an activity in a choice board? And that answer is no, you cannot, not a Seesaw activity. But you could go into your My Library and you could actually take a little screenshot of what that activity looks like, and you could place that on the choice board itself as a little cue of like, and now you're going to go, complete this activity in your activity tab. So you could include that. Kris is doing it right now as we speak here.
Yep, I'm just trying to follow along with what you were saying on there.
Yep. So you could include that, and you might even have the additional cue of the actual activity icon that they see, the little tab. So if you go back into Seesaw and you're in your class, you might include that little activities icon there, knowing, or again, prompting them like, actually, you're going to go to the activity tab and find this other activity. So again, big recommendation to play with this as a teacher as well. And you can definitely play with the flow that your students would experience in this situation. And we've been going on for a while, but I'm actually going to share a code for those that are watching the recording to get a certificate of completion for this session. And that code is 238574. Again, 238574. And you don't need that if you're listening to me live, because the certificate's just going to come to you there. All right, so other questions coming in. Robin, what should we address next? We've got about 10 minutes left.
I just want to clarify, because I've actually been playing with the choice boards too. I'm getting a ton of questions on what kind of links we can put in. And I will tell you, you can use links. I use links for story time or storyline with where people are reading books to my students. So you can add links in. And if you want to speak to that, Kris, because people are asking about all the different types of links you can add in, what can you do for that?
Absolutely. So you, like Robin said, you literally can add any link that you want from the entire internet. But my high recommendation is to make sure you use a kid-safe search engine to find some of those links. Robin's referring to these Storyline Online, which is it's put on by the Actors Guild, if I'm not mistaken, and they're actors who are reading stories to our kids, and these are like YouTube links essentially, but you can really find links for anything that you have. So even if I went to like abcya.com, I can find a game on here and I can still link this back into a choice board for kids to actually play. So if I wanted to take on like the Temple Crossing game like this, I can copy the link for Temple Crossing and I can still paste this into a choice board for my students to go onto. So there is really no restrictions on what you choose, which is a blessing, but it's also a curse. So just be careful as you're putting those on there.
Great. I also have a lot of questions coming in. Can you create links that would go into 4 different Seesaw activities? And Angela, I think you can clarify this one.
Yeah. Right. So at this point, you cannot link directly to a Seesaw activity for students. So that is not yet possible. That's definitely feedback we've shared with our team, but that is not possible at this point. So I like this idea of potentially, if you're creating this, you're using these visuals in the board of saying like, oh, now you're actually going to, go to the activity tab and click on this activity. To respond in that manner. And again, just think through the experience your students will have as well. All right, we're definitely, this is a hot topic, Kris, very exciting. People are very grateful for you being here and sharing all of these ideas with all of us. So thank you for that. Let's see here. Robin, do you have another one to talk about, or should I?
Yeah, I do have one, and I'm not sure on the answer on it. So this will be perfect for Kris. If you go in and you modify that choice board, and you've already shared the link in an activity since it's through Google Slides, will that slide update in what's already created in the activity, or do they need to go back into the activity and add in that link?
That's a great question, and it's one that I've been trying to troubleshoot too. So if you see that I made this change here, if I go back to the activity, it's not going to reflect itself on here. Even if I go view original, it's not, because what happens when we upload it is it takes like a PDF screenshot of what you have right then and there, and then it kind of is just going to show you that. But I will say that this link down here, this published link, will update with you as you make changes. So
just to clarify, so anytime that you are in Seesaw and you are uploading from Google Drive, when you choose upload as the option, so maybe Kris, do you want to just go to the create activity flow for a moment so we can just recap this pretty quickly here?
Yep,
so
absolutely.
when you are using, when you're creating a brand new activity and you choose the multimedia instructions or example and you go to upload, anything that you upload from Google Drive will automatically be converted to a PDF. In essence, that is like Kris described, you're taking a photo of that resource and uploading that at the time of upload. So any modifications you make to that in the actual Google Doc, it will not appear in this scenario. The only way it will work is what Kris pointed out, when you are adding that extra layer of making sure you have that publicly viewable link as a backup plan, because that's actually linking to the actual live, living, breathing Google Doc.
Right.
All right. So I think, Kris, it would be helpful, because I know people are here and they're just like, their head is probably spinning a little bit. And they're thinking, where do I even start? Like, what am I going to do when I leave this session in 5 minutes? What would be kind of your action steps or summarizing thoughts as they leave this session as to what their next step should be?
Absolutely. I think Like we've already said a few times, is starting super, super small with something very, very simple for your kids. This bit.ly link right here is going to take you to all of like the templates and starting spots for you, so you have a little bit of a launch. But just starting with something very, very small, maybe it's just 2 links or 2 videos for your students, and then being mindful of also kind of coaching your students and your parents through all of that as you start on this journey towards choice boards within Seesaw itself.
Exactly. And I think that, obviously in this new realm of learning that we're all in, we want to make sure that we're not throwing too many new things at our students and families. So being really conscious of making sure we model and practice and explore before we just deliver something radically different than they are familiar with at this point. The other thing just to remind everyone of is you are going to get the recording, and we are still recording right now, so that is not available yet. And you'll get the slides, and Kris is obviously sharing the link as well to the slides right now on the screen. Okay, some other things to talk about. Robin, do you have something we should jump into? We just have about 5 more minutes.
Yes, I have one question. I have some teachers asking, if you upload your video to YouTube first, do you need to do that if you're doing a screencast of yourself, or is there a way to just directly embed the video into the slide?
So the only way to embed videos into Google Slides is that it lives on YouTube first. There are ways to like link it to something else, like you can link it to your Google Drive, where like you maybe have your videos all in Google Drive, but that's sometimes a little clunky for kids. So you would have to do your screencast, upload it to YouTube, and then put it into the slideshow. That's kind of the easiest way to do it.
And I think, and to clarify too, you can directly embed videos in your Google Drive in your slides. It might just depend on how potentially your school or district has that set up. So you might see that option or you might not. Like when I'm building Google Slides, I can directly embed videos from my drive into my slides. So that is an option, for me. It might not be something that is an option for Kris, depending on what his school settings are. That could also be a situation that you're navigating too. But there should be an option where you could either embed from your drive or from YouTube as well. But again, that can depend on how your settings are established within your school as well. All right, we're learning so much. We're sharing so many ideas. I love it. I love it. Okay, what else can we knock off the list here in terms of questions? So I know Jenny. So Jenny is a high school teacher, chemistry teacher. And can you just share, Kris, if you share an activity with multiple classes, any modifications to instructions, do not go to the other classes. So first of all, maybe Kris, will you just go and just demonstrate again how you could share to multiple classes? But I think what Jenny is also saying is if you modify an activity that's already been shared, you would have to modify that in each class that it's already been shared in, or you modify it here from my library and then reshare is kind of the only situation there. But maybe Kris, just kind of share how you could send this to multiple classes at once.
Absolutely. So once I have it in my library or even the community, you're going to see this green assign button. And if I click this, it's going to show all the classes I have available to share it with. So I just have to select the multiple classes that are here. I can still go and change the specific students for classes. Like if you did want to modify who sees this, I can click on this one and just choose specific students in specific classes, just so I can do that kind of on the fly from this dashboard too. And then click assign, and that will go out to those classes.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm laughing at myself right now because I realize like we're actually over 10 minutes. We've just been hanging out, still answering questions. So for those of you that are still here, I apologize for keeping you extra time. We always like to end on time, and to Kris as well. So Kris, maybe just show your slide how they can connect with you again if they're curious or have additional questions. Kris is always available, of course, on Twitter and share constantly. So we really, really appreciate you being here and sharing these amazing ideas with us once again. Kris, thanks so much.